All right, part two of my introductory reading from this book, Christ Among Us, which again is for a kind of a explanation or a analysis or an introduction to the Divine Liturgy written for children and young adults. The first time we just read through the prologue to the Greek edition, and this time we're just going to read from the introduction. I'll try to share some of these illustrations with you as we go along, and we'll go from there. As you can see, here's the introductory illustration there. What is the Divine Liturgy? Quote, "Behold, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." Close quote. These are the words that Christ spoke to his disciples while he was still with them here on earth. The Lord's promise becomes a reality at each Divine Liturgy. At the celebration of every Divine Liturgy, Christ comes to our world, is born in a horse's stable, preaches the good news of the kingdom, and performs miracles. He is then betrayed, scorned, sacrificed, and finally resurrected. So what is the Divine Liturgy? It is Christ among us. And what happens if we are lazy about attending church? We lose the opportunity that Christ provides for us to meet him and hear him and to experience his presence in our lives. We miss the opportunity to live within the light of the resurrection, just like his all-holy mother, the myrrh bearers, and his 11 disciples. Why we call it the Divine Liturgy. In ancient Greek, the word letos means people, and ergos means work. Therefore, the word liturgy, liturgia, a compound word made up of letos and ergos, means the work of, for the people. Thus, for the Orthodox Christian, the Divine Liturgy is a holy work performed by an Orthodox priest together with God's people. They participate through the offering of their gifts of pure wheat flour bread, the prosphoro, communion wine, a pure beeswax candle, olive oil, in other words, everything necessary for the celebration of the bloodless sacrifice. Together they chant, supplicate God, and jointly receive Holy Communion. According to the teachings of our Holy Orthodox Church, it is unthinkable to perform the Divine Liturgy without the participation of at least one faithful layperson, and for at least one member of the congregation to receive Holy Communion. That is why it's called liturgy. Next section is the Holy Temple. The gathering of God's people for the purpose of prayer and praise, whether it be for the Divine Liturgy or any of the other divine services, takes place within the Holy Temple. The first Christian temple was the place where Jesus Christ officiated the mystical supper. It was then and there that Christ handed down the celebration of the Holy Eucharist, and Greek Theia Eucharistia, to his disciples. Each holy temple is a piece of heaven on earth. It is for this reason that the holy apostles specified that all Christian churches should be built facing eastward, where Christ will return to his glory at his second coming to judge the living and the dead. God himself is present wherever a temple of believers is found. The first area we encounter when we enter a holy temple is the narthex. It is the space where the instruction of the catechumens took place in ancient times and where they stood during the first part of the Divine Liturgy. After passing through the narthex, we enter the nave. This is where the worshippers remain during the celebration of the holy mysteries and the other divine services. The most prominent feature in this part of the temple is the hierarchical throne, which is found on the upper right-hand side of the nave. The bishop sits on this throne. He is a living icon of Christ. On the left-hand side, we find the pulpit. It is from there that the deacon reads the sacred gospel. Here's the illustration here. The most sacred part of the temple is the holy sanctuary. It is separated from the nave by the icon screen. The elevated area in front of the icon screen is called the solea. On the right and left, we can find the chanter stands. On the icon screen, we find the holy icons of Christ, the Panagia, St. John the Baptist, and the patron saint of the church. The sanctuary, which is always on the east end of the temple, symbolizes heaven itself and the place of God's heavenly throne. In the middle of the sanctuary is the holy altar table. The Divine Liturgy, also called the bloodless sacrifice, is celebrated upon it. The antimension, a piece of cloth around with the depiction of the deposition of Christ from the cross, must be present on the holy table for the celebration of the Divine Liturgy. This cloth, which was previously blessed at the consecration of the temple, is unfolded on the altar table during the liturgy. To the left of the altar is the holy prothesis. It symbolizes Bethlehem and the cave where Christ was born. And just as Bethlehem is close to Jerusalem and the Lord's all-holy tomb, in the same way, the holy prothesis is close to the holy altar table. The precious gifts are prepared here prior to the celebration of the Divine Liturgy. During the celebration of the service, these gifts are solemnly transferred to the holy table during the great entrance. This place within the holy temple is called the prothesis, from the Greek verb protithemi, to set forth. Because during the service of the proskomidi, the gifts offered by the faithful for the celebration of the Divine Liturgy are placed and offered here. To the right of the holy altar is a place called the diaconicon. It contains the holy vessels and takes its name from the deacons who tend to it. All right. Next section, I'm going to make these rather short, is the proskomidi. And here's the illustration here. So I will see you guys next time.